Each stream of revenue includes all profits made from each product or service offering. The average price of product or service must be determined, followed by a projected number of sales per year. Once the two factors are multiplied for each stream, the final sum is the year's total revenue.
So in our model, what we did here is we've got two factors, right?
That's
Okay,
right.
so
We're
how
good.
many widgets are we going to sell this year?
2,500,
2,500. And we're going to sell them for how much?
$45.
$45. Okay, so 2,500. So the way we set our model up is we're multiplying $45 times $2,500 in sales, and we're taking it all the way over here to the total for the year and then dividing it back out among the months. You can do this model yourself, just plugging the revenue straight into the particular month. But we decided to do it by factors because it's easy if we decide to change our minds. How many doodads are we going to sell?
I think we're going to sell 5,000.
You do. Well, all I got to do is plug it in, right? And how much is a doodad worth?
$25.
So it's worth $25. Okay, so now we've got our revenue, and that's the money in. It's $19,000 for January, and it's a healthy $237,500 for the year. Okay, so that gives us the money coming in. Now we got to figure out the money going out. How much of our revenue is the widget cost for purchases?
30%.
Okay, 30%. So if I plug in 30% right here, and is it the same for the doodads or is it different for the doodads?
I think for the doodads, we purchased those outright, so that's closer to 50%.
You see what we've done? We've taken 30% of the total sales, which is about 112,000, and 50% of the total sales, which is 125,000. That gets us to our purchases for our widgets and our doodads. So our wages for our doodads is zero because we buy them already made, right?
Correct.
But how much labor do we have in a widget?
About $1.50 in wages for each widget.
Okay, so we just plug that in. So there's $1.50 is times the total number of units, which is 2,500 from above, and that gives me how much labor I've got. So if we go over and look at the totals, we have $237,000 in revenue, and we have 100,000, 101,000 in cost of goods. So that means our gross profit, also known as gross margin, is $136,000. So out of that $136,000, or 58% of our total revenue, has to come all of our expenses, any loans we have to pay, any one-time expenses we have to make during the year, and whatever's left over is our profit.
Next, we're going to look at expenses. Expenses are sometimes called indirect costs. These are the items that you will pay for regardless of whether you produce the product or sell the service or not. The first line in expenses are wages. Indirect wages are wages for personnel such as receptionists, admin, salespeople. These are the people that are not directly related to creating the product or service. How many people do we have in this company?
Well, right now we just got an admin person answering the phone, and we pay her $20,000 a year.
All right. And for our payroll and our workers' comp, same as in our cost of goods, we have 17% indirect payroll, and our workers' comp in the office is 2%, much less risk.
One thing I want to point out about this too is this 17% is really just income tax, state tax, Social Security tax, unemployment tax. If you were going to put in health insurance or other fringe benefits, this amount could be as high as 30 or 35%. If you're going to count health benefits down in this part as an individual line item, then you wouldn't put them in here.
Next is advertising and promotions.
I'm going to go ahead and put $10,000 in for our marketing for this year. Lease or rent is a big deal for most businesses. After employee wages, it's going to be the biggest expense that you have. If you're in retail, the rule is location, location, location. If you're not in retail, then it's cost. But you have to be very careful about not getting too much space and not paying too high a premium for it. It can take you out faster than you would think. Now, our particular space to build our widgets and stuff, we don't need a lot of room. it's $1,500 a month, and we pay $1 a square foot. So our rent is pretty inexpensive. And our utilities are about $300 a month.
Well, we buy a lot of AdWords promoting our widgets and our doodads. So we probably spend about $400 a month in AdWords. Plus, we've got website maintenance and backup. So we probably want to say $500 a month for our website and e-commerce.
So that's a total of $6,000 for the year that we spend on e-commerce. So now what we see here is this is our total expenses. So if I move up here just a smidge, there's $10,000 for gross profit, subtracting $7,000 of expenses. That leaves us with operating income of about $3,800. All right, to start our business, we got a SBA loan for $50,000 at 6%. So our monthly payment's $735 a month. If I take our operating income of $3,874 and I subtract $735 from it, that leaves me with an EBIT, earnings before taxes, of $3,139. Now, we're going to pay income tax, 8% state and 15% federal, but we pay it quarterly, $24.81 every 3 months. So as you can see, I've got $3,139 for these first 2 months, but then I only make $659 in the months that I have to pay taxes. So now the real decision becomes, once I do this cash flow model, is $33,219 enough money? Is that what I want to get out of this business? So if it's not enough money, which it probably isn't, because I'd like to have more money, there are 2 things I can do. I can lower expenses, or I can raise revenue. Now, since our expenses were pretty bare bones, there's not a lot of movement there. So we have to start looking at things like, what do we do if we raise our prices or we sell more? So just to give you a general idea of how this will work, I'm going to take the net income number and I'm going to plug it in right here so we can see what happens as we change things. So if I just do 500 more of these in a year, it raises my income by over $10,000. If I charge $2 more a unit here, raises my income another $3,000. If I can reduce the cost of an item from 50% to 45%, it raises it yet again. The beauty of having a model that's factor driven like this one, which is available from Whiteboard Partners, is that you can change these factors and see what happens to your net income very easily. And you can run a number of different scenarios to see what the best operating parameters would be for your business.